Not working. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Tequesta and to a regular meeting of the Village Council. It is Thursday, October the 8th, 2020, and it is 6 p.m. This meeting is being held in council chambers with required social distancing in accordance with CDC guidelines. It is also available on the Village's YouTube channel. Citizen comment cards or forms are available in advance of the meeting on the Village's website. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone?
Here.
Councilmember Brandon?
Here.
Councilmember DeAmbra?
Here.
Councilmember Prince?
Here.
Thank you. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Bruce Prince.
Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the members of the council and staff. Bless us with the knowledge to make the decision that best represent the majority of the citizens of Tequesta. Bless all the men and women that serve our country that allows us to live in this wonderful country in peace. Bless those who are struggling during these most turbulent times in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have three presentations this evening. The first is the presentation of certified municipal clerk designation for our own Deputy Clerk, Mary Ann Grieser. And Lori, would you like to introduce our guests this evening?
Sure. We have with us the Florida Association of City Clerks Region 3 Director, Lanelda Gaskins. And we have the Palm Beach County Municipal Clerks Association President, Quinn Warrer.
All right. If you'd like to step to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Lanelda Gaskins. I am the town clerk for the town of Highland Beach. I am currently serving as the Southeast District Director for the Florida Association of City Clerks. I am joined here tonight by Green Acres City Clerk, Quintella Moore. She is the Palm Beach County Municipal Clerks Association President. And I want to thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to be here tonight to recognize Deputy Clerk Mary Ann Grieser for obtaining her Certified Municipal Clerk designation. Mary Ann has been with the Village of Tequesta for 5 years. She started as a part-time employee and shortly thereafter was hired as in a full-time position. She joined the Florida Association of City Clerk and began the certification process in May of 2016. She was promoted to Deputy Clerk in October of 2018. Over the last 4 years, Mary Ann has been the recipient of several awards of excellence in customer service. Mary Ann has been an active member of the Florida Association of City Clerks for 4 years. The first Florida Association of City Clerk event that she attended was the 2016 Summer Academy. In 2018 through 2019, she served on the Silence Auction and 50/50 Drawing Committee, and she also served in 2019 through 2020 on the Summer Conference Academy Committee. Currently, the Florida Association of City Clerks has 568 members. Of our 568 members, there are 414 members who have reached the Certified Municipal Clerk designation. The Certified Municipal Clerks program is designed to enhance the job performance and recognizes the professionalism of the city clerk's office in small and large municipalities. To earn the CMC designation, a municipal clerk must attend extensive education programs and requires pertinent experience in municipalities. The CMC program, which is the Certified Municipal Clerk Program, I'm calling it CMC now, prepares the clerks to meet the challenges of complex role of municipal clerk by providing them with the quality education in partnership with institutions of higher learning. Before I present Mary Ann with her CMC pin and designation, I would like to share a few comments that I received during this planning process of this presentation. These are comments from your city clerk, Lori McWilliams. Mary Ann is a longtime resident of Tequesta and has been for 16 years. She enjoys working for the village. She adds an in-depth value to the city clerk's office and the municipality. She is a ray of sunshine. She provides excellent customer service to everyone. And I believe she brings a balance in the clerk's office. I truly believe that Mary Ann is the yin to Lori's yang. And she is the sun to Lori's moon. On behalf of the Florida Association of City Clerks and the Southeast District, please join me in congratulating Ms. Mary Ann Grieser on her efforts as one of our newest CMC clerks, certified municipal clerks, excuse me. We are all so proud of you, and congratulations.
Mary Ann, would you like to say something? Okay. Couldn't see that far. Yay.
Well, thank you so much. I was not expecting all of that, but I very much appreciate it. I want to thank Lori so much for being such an incredible mentor. The 5 years I've been here have been just amazing. I've learned so much. I want to thank Jeremy and the council for allowing me to pursue this certification. It's a lot of education. It's a lot of webinars. It's so helpful. It helps me be a better clerk, and it helps me serve the residents so much better. And that's what I love to do. I love to serve the residents. So thank you again so much.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, show a quick video that the staff put together for Mary Ann.
Oops.
I know how much of a commitment it is to get your clerk certification, how long it took, and the dedication it took. So, once again, congratulations.
Mary Ann, congratulations. You are amazing, and ever since you came to the village of Tequesta, it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for you. And Lori, I know I can say that because I hear it from her all the time. This is a big, big deal, and I just want you to know how proud I am of you.
I want to say congratulations on your huge accomplishment. I'm sure a lot of hard work went into it. Congratulations.
Awesome job, Mary Ann. We are so proud of you. Congrats.
Congratulations on your achievement, Mary Ann.
How are you doing? Congratulations on your CNC. I'm so sure you worked so hard. You deserve it. Congratulations. I'm very happy, and I wish I could give you a big work pays off, new chapter, can't wait to celebrate. Congrats, very proud of you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hi, Mary Ann. Congratulations on your certification. Things have been difficult throughout this pandemic, but you're able to persevere and obtain your certification.
Hey, Mary Ann, I just wanted to congratulate you on becoming a certified municipal clerk. That's an amazing accomplishment, and I wish you all the success in the future. Congratulations.
Hey, Mary Ann, just wanted to congratulate you on your designation you received. Fabulous job, and I'm so proud of you.
Mary Ann, congratulations on receiving your certified municipal clerk designation. It is a hard road to go. I know it takes 4 or 5 years to do, and you did it. I know it's not always easy to complete, but I am so proud of you. I am also blessed to have you as my deputy clerk working alongside of me. You are a dedicated employee, you are a professional. Everything you do has compassion coming through. You're a ray of sunshine, and your passion for the residents and employees of the village is beyond reproach. And I am so blessed to have you working alongside of me. Again, congratulations on receiving your CMC. Now, go get that MMC, girl.
Very nice. Okay, let's move on to item 2, which is the 2020 Florida Law Enforcement Traffic Safety Challenge presentation. And Chief Medina, would you please lead this off for us?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Mr. Charles Kane from the Florida Department of Transportation. He is the law enforcement liaison.
Hi, good evening. I'm Charlie Kane. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm your District 4 Law Enforcement Liaison. And I'm here tonight to present an award for the Florida Law Enforcement Traffic Safety Challenge. It's a comprehensive evaluation of your agency, your police department's ability to manage traffic safety within your community. Tequesta placed first in the 23 agencies that of similar size that actually competed. We have about 234 agencies statewide that participate in this challenge, varying sizes. The cities compete against similar size agencies. The way we evaluate is we look at the police department's creation of awareness within the community, what they do throughout the course of the year, the enforcement that they do, not only just in one particular area, but that they have diversity across the board. So, you know, you can't just have all speeding tickets. You've got to do everything. You've got to do your child restraint violations. You got to do DUIs. You got to do speed aggressive driving. You got to do seatbelt violations, things like that. We also look at crashes. We look at crashes, total crashes, injury crashes, fatality crashes, and we also look at crashes within targeted areas. The emphasis areas for traffic safety: DUI, speed aggressive driving, bicycle and pedestrian, occupant protection, and there's a few others. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to do this, because they certainly deserve the recognition. The chief and his staff have been working with me now for 13 years, and they've always made sure that I've had a dedicated point of contact for this police department. We've never had a lapse. For me, it's been an absolute pleasure working with them. So I want to present the Tequesta Police Department with first place in Category 2 for the Florida Law Enforcement Traffic Safety Challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. I'll accept it on behalf of the police department. Once again, I'm blessed to be part of this team, and it's based on the work of every man and woman that puts on this uniform, as well as the community as a whole. So in regards to education and everything else that they do, I'm truly proud to be a part of this team, so thank you. And by the way, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we ever came in first place?
That's correct.
Okay, just put that out there. Thank you.
As always, we are incredibly proud of the men and women of the, that's right, it would be a wing, of the Tequesta Police Department. This is just another thing that you have done so well for us. We thank you. All right, let's go to number 3, which is a proclamation recognizing October as National Code Compliance Month. And receiving this tonight is Compliance Officer Michael Filipkowski. So Michael, if you just want to stand up at the podium, and Lori will read the proclamation.
Whereas code enforcement officers provide the safety and welfare of the citizens throughout the United States through the enforcement of local codes or ordinances facing various issues of building, zoning, housing, animal control, environmental, health, and life safety. Whereas code enforcement officers often have a challenging and demanding role and often do not receive recognition for the job that they do in improving living and working conditions for residents and businesses of local communities. Whereas the role of many code enforcement officers has expanded in recent years with the increased number of foreclosed and abandoned homes. Whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated and high qualified professionals who share the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing and ensuring safety, and preserving property values through knowledge and application of housing, zoning, and nuisance codes and ordinances. Whereas code enforcement officers often have a highly visible role in the communities they serve and regularly interact with a variety of state officials, county officials, first responders, legislative boards, commissions, agencies, and bodies. Whereas code enforcement officers are called upon to provide quality customer service and excellence to the residents and businesses of the communities they serve. Whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement wants to recognize and honor code enforcement officers and professionals all across the United States and bring awareness to the importance of code enforcement to the communities of the United States. Whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement was established in 1988 for the purpose of providing ongoing training and support for code enforcement officials working in the United States. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the month of October 2020 is National Code Compliance Month, and we call upon municipalities and communities to join in recognizing and expressing their appreciation for the dedication and service of the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers.
Thank you. I know that Jeremy would like to say a few words about what goes on and all the work that you do.
Well, I just, want to publicly thank you, Michael, for the job that you do, and, you have a totally thankless job, as you know. Most time when there's an issue, Michael goes out and talks to people. He's not going out there to give them good news typically. It's typically a violation. So when you talk about customer service, there's a picture of Michael Filipkowski in there. You talk about code compliance. If there was a definition of code compliance officer, Michael Filipkowski would be it. So I appreciate your contributions to the village, and the village wouldn't be as beautiful, as nice as it is, and without somebody like you doing the job. So thank you.
Thank you.
For as difficult a job it is, and I've told you this, Michael, there are so many people that compliment you on how you handle what you have to do. And they are grateful for the way that you do it, because it's like Jeremy was saying, it's normally not good news when you're at the front door. But they really appreciate it. And once again, we're proud of you, and we thank you for being just a stellar employee here in the village of Tequesta.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the mayor, the town council, village manager, and the building official for their continued support, and I truly appreciate this acknowledgement. Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. I would actually like to pull 5 and 7.
All right, number 5 and 7.
And I have a question on 10.
All right, hang on, let me, so are we pulling it then, I guess, if you want 5, 7, and 10?
Yes.
All right, and I am not pulling it, but I just want to make a note when it comes to Item number 8, we have all discussed having anything on the agenda that would not go on consent would be anything over $25,000. Even though on item 8, we've already discussed all of this, it's just a process. And it fell into the agenda, and I spoke with Jeremy about this, and that won't happen going forward. Just a comment. All right. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less item 5, less item 7, and less item 10?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, let's go back to item 5 then. Approval of contracts signed by the manager.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about 2 of them. The bonded lighting protection, it looks like we're getting a nice service from them, and was curious if we're doing anything to recognize them for approximately about a $10,000 donation to our building. So,
Okay.
either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
Yes.
be great.
I received an email from Mike Dillon, who is the Vice President of Bonding Lightning Protection, and I'd like to read his exact words. It says, "Good afternoon, Doug. I'd like to make a donation to the Tequesta Public Safety Facility and its first responders. Bonded lightning protection has been in the North County since the early 1970s. What made this community great almost 50 years ago when my parents chose to call this area home are the same things that still make this community great today. It's people. In the case of first responders, COVID-19 reminds us how essential the work is to our safe and thriving community. As a Tequesta homeowner, I see their work every day. With that, Bonded Lightning Protection wishes to donate a National Fire Protection 780 lightning protection system with a value of $10,000 for the public safety facility."
Excellent. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Is it worth
Mike
noting?
couldn't be here today. He wanted to be here today, but he's traveling. But I appreciate you recognizing him as well.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely a great company in the area, and they've got a lot of employees. I'm pretty sure they've done work all over. Quite impressive. So happy that they're doing that and wanted to recognize them.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
On the other item, the medical director's contract. That's a contract we've had since 2003. Looks like the individual, the doctor, is getting a 4% escalation on his increase to his pay. Just curious if we can, I just need to understand a little bit more about kind of the work that they do.
Well, just if you don't mind, I'll correct you. He's not getting a 4% increase on his pay. The way, we had to clean up that contract. Some of the wording wasn't up to date. That contract's been in place for a long time. As we looked at it, the significant change probably as far as monetary value is that when the original contract was written, it said that it would go up or down with CPI and for the month of May. And so in this particular case, the CPI was going down. So we have our medical director that's probably working harder than he's ever worked in this scenario. So the trade-off for that is to say that he would go up with CPI or stay the same if CPI went down. It wouldn't go down with CPI. The trade-off that we did is we put a cap of 4%. So even if it goes up, it will not go above 4%. So that was the trade-off, so that way we wouldn't go below, but we wouldn't let it go. Decrease. So that's the significant change on it. There was some, from the contract standpoint, some legalizing of the wording and things that need to be, so you'll see those 4 or 5 changes in that amendment. But both Dr. Tanabe, the Chief Trube, and myself all thought it was worthwhile to amend that contract.
And does that contract go out for bid?
No, it does not.
Because it's underneath that?
And that would be a professional service too, I believe. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other things on that?
905.
May I have a motion to approve item 5?
I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move to items.
Do you want it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to the next one. What would you like?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, let's go to item number 7, which is to affirm the renewal of the state of emergency declaration due to COVID-19.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get clarification on this. Are we still moving, obviously, you're requesting to move forward to keep us in a state of emergency. If you can explain or tell me kind of the reasoning behind that.
Well, as you know, recently, the county, or the state moved to phase 3. The county did as well in most aspects. There are a few things that the county's still holding on to, with the mask mandates and some of those things. The county has said that they would stay under the declaration of emergency as long as the state was, and obviously, I think we would follow what the county and state does. And so the state is still under declaration of emergency. The county is, and in my opinion, we would stay under 2. If there's spikes or anything that, gets out of control, we still have that, a little bit of that flexibility. Obviously, I still report things to you guys. I mean, I haven't really bypassed any ordinances or anything that, even though I have some authority with that, I haven't done any of that. So I wouldn't see why we wouldn't stay under that declaration of emergency as long as the county and state was. And that gives us some opportunity, if we do spend some money, to be able to get some reimbursement through FEMA and whatever avenues there are monetarily.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comment on that item? All right, if not, may I have a motion to approve item 7?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 10, which is to consider amendment to agreement for grant writing services.
Quick question on this, Jeremy. We have 2 grant writers, as I understand it. We have the one that's worked with us traditionally with Parks and Rec, and then we were engaging the woman who's a Tequesta resident. This agreement applies specifically to her. I'm just curious, I think the arrangement we had with the other grant writer was somewhat different, and I'm wondering if there's an intent to have both of them work under the same agreement, or whether we envision them continuing to work under different terms, and maybe just a review of what the terms were for the gentleman who has been doing the grant writing for us in the past associated with Parks and Rec.
I'd have to pick up his agreement. I'm not 100% sure. I know in the grants that he is, that company has solicited for us, and we've got most of his contracts were always kind of covered under the grants that I know of. In this particular situation, I think she had an agreement that she was previously using, with firms, and so we kind of adopted that. I mean, if it's the council's will to try to, match those contracts, I mean, I don't know what that'll do with that agreement. I don't know if she'd be entertain that. I mean, I think her fees that we've agreed to are very reasonable. Most of these fees that for her will traditionally, depending on the type of grant, may be covered under the grant as well. So, in my opinion, I think they're reasonable. But if, the council's will for us to make sure they're the same agreement, I mean, I could look at that.
Well, I noticed that what changed here was the inclusion of an hourly rate, and I don't have a good sense of the number of hours that might be put into any one single grant, and so that kind of leaves that situation a little bit open-ended. And I think you're right. I think the gentleman that does Parks and Rec, it's built into the grant itself, so there's no out-of-pocket costs unless we receive the grant, as I understand it. So there is a difference between the two, and I guess what I'd like us to perhaps look at is whether there should be a uniform arrangement here, and maybe just get a little more clarity as to, again, with 2 people that we're proposing to use as we go forward, making sure that, they're treated. We've had discussions about how they want to be treated, that they're treated equally, and again, when it comes to hourly rates, that we have some kind of control over what that may look like, because if we don't get the grant, as I understand it, we're still paying her. Whereas I believe under the other arrangement, he only gets paid if we get the grant. So just a concern about, again, the fact we've got different structures for the different people. And I just would like to explore this a little further before I would feel comfortable going forward with this.
And, the only thing I can add to that is we did put a clause in here, added a clause to it not to exceed, that we will, before we I guess, agree to move forward on any grants, that we would agree upon a price that, for per hour. So, if we think it's a 10-hour, give or take, it won't exceed that. So that our plan is, before any grant that we go after, we put a not to exceed price on that.
Okay.
And traditionally, I think the grants that we'd be looking at should cover the grant writer as well. But, obviously depend on the grant.
Okay.
Does that satisfy your concern, because there is a
yeah, I'd still like
cap on it?
I'd like us to take a look at this.
All right.
And we'll look at the two different writers, look at what each one is doing, and then, like I said, I think there should be probably some uniformity here. There may be reasons not to, but I'd like to explore it a little deeper before we
All right.
put it forward. That's-
I'd like to put that to council, if you would like to hold on to this particular item until we get better information or more information.
I'm fine with that.
Holding it or,
Holding it.
all right,
But just to clarify, you're not looking to remove the different writers, just to
No.
Correct.
discuss their contracts?
Correct.
Okay.
all right.
I don't know, I'm not sure that there's a necessity for it. We have used vendors all throughout the Village of Tequesta, and they all have separate contracts that we agree to all the time. So I'm not sure if it's time well spent, but I would say let's move forward with it personally.
Okay, well, I have two people that, and three actually, that have just would like
Fair
to
enough.
have it pulled. So I'd like to pull this item to be discussed at a later date. All right?
And we can do this at the next workshop.
Jeremy, what I'd be curious to know, though, I mean, this particular grant writer has been writing grants for the city of Tequesta for quite some time, I think I remember.
No, this
No.
is fairly recent. She's
Oh,
done
is
some
she?
work with the Village of Tequesta with like TFOPs and other organizations. She's helped with chili cook-off, some different stuff. But she actually, so yes and no, she has started writing doing some work under the previous agreement, because this was previously agreed upon by council. We just left the hourly rate off. So she did start some work with utilities, and I think 3 grants already, soliciting those. Those would still fall under my purview to be able to approve. So, so yes, she is doing some work for the village, but it's not been a long-term arrangement at this point.
Has she got any grants so far?
But she's applied for 3, but I mean, it's still too early to decide, or, to see if she's, if those been awarded or not.
What I'd be curious to know is it should, hypothetically, she get some of these grants approved, what her actual cost would have been for those grants, and then compare it to what the other guy's getting with the other style of contract. Just out of curiosity, if you got 2 different ones, I mean, which one is being the most cost-effective in order to get the grants? I know it's kind of a hit-and-miss thing, but, that's why I was asking for some past history on it, to see if we had any, to be able to better evaluate maybe what she's done in the past under that agreement.
Sure, we can take a look at that. I think, from our standpoint, we have grant writers. That's a good thing. Typically, she goes out and gets one of those 3 grants. I mean, we won. I mean, we're utilizing other people's money versus the village's money. So,
Right.
But we can take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
I think it bears some watching as well. May I have a motion to remove item 10 from this consent agenda?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. That is the end of the consent agenda, and now we go to communications from citizens. Do we have any forms here in the,
Yes.
that don't apply to an agenda item? Okay.
We had one come in online from a Patricia Testa, and she says, can the water bills include a designation as to whether the reading was actual or estimate? Can the number of days in the billing cycle also be included?
All right, thank you. I know we're going to be talking about that in an agenda item that's coming up. I believe that we have something we can answer it then, perhaps.
And the only other comment card I received was for item 14.
Okay. Is there anyone here that didn't put in a card that would like to speak? All right, then thank you very much. Now we'll go to communications from council, and I'll start with Council Member Prince.
I don't have anything to communicate.
Okay. Ms. Brandon.
I'll keep it short and sweet. With holidays coming up, just hopefully everyone can find some sort of joy out of 2020. It'll be creative, which is what I think will be very exciting to see how the Tequesta residents get creative to make holidays happen and keep some sort of normalcy. And that is all.
All right, thank you. Councilmember.
Sure. Today I had the privilege of going to 2 different local businesses and starting a little bit of trying to get some promotion to them here locally to the residents. So excited about continuing to do that. And Lori, thank you for your help in kind of getting that rolling. But other than that, not much.
All right, thank you.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say, it was heartwarming to see that the county commission actually listened to our last discussion about coming online with the governor's executive order and opening our businesses back up.
Well, and yeah,
Well,
we
glad
had,
to see them take action in that
our letter
regard.
was in there for 2 hours and then it got done.
Hey,
So we
so
were
you made all the difference.
Pretty efficient.
pretty good, huh?
I did want to, I think Mary Ann left, but I did want to, again, echo my congratulations to her. She has been a treasure for the village. And I also wanted to compliment Lori on the Magic at Tequesta video. I know that's not finalized yet, but the work you guys have done so far on that, I thought was excellent. And the last thing I wanted to indicate there was, and I know we're going to touch on this, but I know the amount of work and labor and energy and time that went into the selection process for the community center, for the recommendations on the construction manager. It was an all-hands-on-deck affair, and there were multiple people from the Parks and Rec and other areas of the village that Jeremy had appointed to that committee. And again, it was the workload in that and the work that you guys put in to getting to the recommendations, I know was tremendous. So I just wanted to thank everybody who was associated with that project and let them know how much I appreciate their efforts in moving this forward.
Thank you. The only thing I want to say, of course, we saw some of this evening with our clerk and the police officers and our code compliance officer, but our staff throughout this entire COVID crisis, if you will, has been working very carefully either from home or in the office. They rotate it, and it has been, there has been not one ball dropped. And I wanted to thank all of them and thank Jeremy because he is the architect of how all of that would work. But the staff has been outstanding in that. So that's what I want to tell you. So that is the end of our reports, and we'll start now with Attorney Keith Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let the council know, we are meeting in person at this point, so it will not be a huge adjustment for us. However, all indications from the state are that the current relaxation of sunshine law requirements that have allowed us to meet via Zoom, not in a particular location, will end statewide at the end of this month. I think the governor's last order extending it through October all but said that. So another step forward, hopefully, towards business as usual. That does not, the only thing that deals with is your being present in a particular location to constitute a quorum and the meeting physically being held here. We can still accommodate remote viewing by the public through YouTube. That can still continue. You can still continue to take public comments via remote comment cards in advance, but the one thing that will go away is your ability to participate from different locations. We'll be back to being required to be in this setting. But as I said, since we're already doing that, it shouldn't be a big change for us at this point. And that was the only thing I wanted to remind you about. And unless you have any other questions, I'll leave my report at that.
Keith, in the past, as long as we had a physical quorum, though, if there was a council member who could not be here physically but wanted to participate via the phone or perhaps we've allowed that. I'm assuming that continues.
We'll be back to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
So as long as there's a quorum physically present in the location where the meeting is physically held, somebody can still appear remotely.
Right.
So yes, that will be back in place.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Village Manager Allen?
I think Frank is looking over my shoulder and read my notes, but I do want to thank, Doug, Hugh, Matt, Lori, and Greg for their work on the community center. I mean, we've had it's been a lot of interest in that community center. I think we had like 12 proposals, and so the time that it took to go through those proposals, and I know they're all busy. Doug, Hugh's finishing budget, Greg with his events, and Matt with the water issue. So I know it took some time, and they did it with grace, I guess, and put in the energy and time. So I appreciate that. It looks like we're kind of turning the corner with phase 3, and I don't know if I've done it publicly, but thank Chief Truve and Andre Dodd and Merlene for their work through this whole pandemic and policies, procedures. I know we still have some work to do, but I think it's important to acknowledge those people. So with that, that's my report.
All right, thank you. We have received the report from the Police Department, the Fire Department, and Utilities Director. Unless there's any questions from council, from anything that they came up with, we'll just keep moving on. All right, thank you. So now we'll get started with the regular agenda, old business, and this is ordinance 0620, second reading, item 12.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 06-20, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 78-4 definitions, to amend and create definitions for terms related to sign identification and regulation, also amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 11, signs, to conform the village code to recent legal precedent regarding signs, and provide internal consistency, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a confidence clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes. This is second reading. There have been no changes to the document since the council saw it first reading.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, now open for council comment.
I have a couple of items. Under C1, and I realize there might have to be some grandfathering, but we talk about a height limit of 16 feet. C2, C3, we talked about a height limit of 20 feet. I believe that was along the US 1 corridor, and the same thing with C2 is actually referenced twice. I was just going to put this out there for the council to consider as to whether we wanted to have signs of that height continue to be erected in the village, or whether we wanted to give some consideration to perhaps reducing the height of those signs to some extent. You know, you can go to different municipalities where they have put some height limits so the signs don't project way up high into the air. They're a little closer, to the road. And again, it would be a bit uneven in the village because we already have some. But again, I'm thinking of going forward, whether we want to continue with those kind of heights on the signs, whether that's just something to discuss and get everybody's input on.
All right, any comments on that? Do you have any?
I think the only comment I was going to make.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The only comment I was going to make was that I know that we've talked about this kind of in depth, and that I think we wanted to continue the conversation after we get this passed about some signs and some sizes, especially on Tequesta Drive and some areas there that bring this back up. And so that my only request is that we do talk about those size of signs and make sure we look at this.
Yeah, I'm talking, okay, if what we're saying is we want to, I guess the question was, do we want to pass it as it is and then come back and revisit some of these issues?
Yes.
Okay, let's pass it if we can, because it'll be another 10 years by the time we come back. And so we want to get this.
Because I had a couple comments on a couple other sections.
Right.
So that's fine.
But let's pass this if you agree, and then we'll go back and take a look at those little or pieces.
Okay, that's fine.
If council is agreeing. Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, excuse me, I didn't call in the public on this one. Did you have a card on this one, Lori? No. You did not. All right, I didn't see somebody I thought might be here, that's why I kind of went over it.
The card I have is for item number 14.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that does want to speak to this item? All right, it is now closed to the public, and we did have a motion, and I believe we had a second.
Mm-hmm.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Item 13, ordinance 8-20, second reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 8-20, ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances in Chapter 70, taxation, Article 4, public service tax, Division 2, electricity, gas, and water, Section 7121, tax levy, by repealing the quote per gallon basis, end quote, for the collection of tax on water, but leaving unchanged the rate of 9%, providing each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 70 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date and for other purposes. This is second reading, and there have been no changes to the document since the council saw it first.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, now open to the council for comment. Any comments here? Council comments?
Good with it.
All right, it is closed to the council and now open to the public. No cards have come in. Anyone like to speak to this item? All right, thank you. It is closed to the public. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to new business, item 14. This is a special exception use modification having to do with a awning at a property on 1 Main Street. And who would be presenting this, Nielsen? Lance, you going to present? Thank you.
Mayor, with your permission, I can, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, I can do the swearing in at this time.
Yep.
If you're going to be speaking to the village council, I do need to place you under oath. I can place everyone under oath together. If you'll stand, raise your right hand. Looks like we have 3 takers. Each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you very much. And then coming back to the council, any ex parte discussions that any of you have had regarding this item would need to be disclosed on the record at this time.
None.
None.
None with the owner
And
of
seeing
this
none,
one.
Mayor, we can proceed with this item.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like Lance, you going to give us a presentation on this?
Yeah, I'll
Thank you.
introduce the item. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Lance Lilly, Community Development Planner. The application that we have in front of us today is for a special exception use for 842 square foot awning for Miss Nancy Harvey. Before I start going into the presentation, I actually have something I'd like to introduce into the record. It is from the owner that's actually given consent and approval of the awning.
If I can just ask, is this an item that's separate from the application?
No, it's just, well, yes, it's separate from that's already in the backup.
So we'll just want to call this the applicant's exhibit 1 for the hearing.
All right, thank you.
And then also we have a board right here that will demonstrate what the proposed awning location is, as well as the material. So, like I mentioned, so the application we have in front of us is for the special exception use. We're only looking at the use this evening. The actual aesthetics of the awning will be reviewed next Thursday, October 15th, by the Planning and Zoning Board. If it is approved by the Planning and Zoning Board, the applicant will have to submit a building permit, and if that building permit is obtained, it will be reviewed by the building department and the fire department. Any additional questions, the applicant is here, and she's here to answer any questions you have.
I have a question about why it's going to planning and zoning after it's coming to us here. Sorry.
Yeah, so the way that the code is written, the code mentions that since this was a special exception use, which is a private school, it has to go to council first for special exception use approval.
I see.
So since they're modifying the special exception use that's already there, they have to come here first and then get the planning and zoning.
All right.
So that's the only reason.
All right, thank you very much.
Good
Would you like
evening,
to speak?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'm Nancy Harvey, 165 Citadel Circle, Jupiter, and I'm here to answer any questions about the awning.
Can we see? Can we see that? Just so I understand, it just goes straight down? Yeah, okay. I couldn't see that properly.
It's just covering the balcony that.
It's just the balcony,
It exists so
the
you have,
wraparound
so the
balcony.
children are able to go out
And read a book, read it aloud to help with their comprehension,
Thank
have
you.
lunch.
Yep. All right, thank you.
I just had one question. Mr. Zuccarelli owns this building. I believe Mr. Zuccarelli owns this building?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the woman who communicated on his behalf, we verify that she was authorized to do so, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, she's not the owner, I don't believe.
She is the treasurer.
Okay, I just want to, okay, I didn't see anything here to indicate.
No, it's true. I had the same exact question as you did, because we would make sure that Mr. Zuccarelli was a part of this, but
Okay.
she did have the authorization to be
Okay.
able to do it.
Okay, all right, very good.
All right, thank you. I believe that we have some people in the audience that wanted to speak to this. All right, and you were sworn in. Would you like to come up and identify yourself, please?
Good evening, I'm Diana Ard. I live at 102 Chapel Lane in Tequesta for past 20 years. I had an occasion to drive by this building area about 10 days ago. And there was a woman in the roadway, the public roadway, standing and talking with a couple of young ladies. Had I have known that was a school, I would have gone around and away from where they were loading students on this public roadway. There's no signage, not on the building for the name. I don't know the name of the school, to be honest with you. Nor is there signage in the roadway, nor did the person conducting the students have any kind of stop, go, any type of signage at all. I think it would be beneficial to the students for their safety to at least have some signage there and let us know. Had I have known that was a school, I would have avoided that area and gone completely around it.
Okay.
So I would appreciate your consideration on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nothing on the awning, though, correct?
Nothing on the other.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Madam Mayor, may I address?
Yes.
We are working.
Address us.
Okay, we are working on signing. We were closed for fall break for 2 weeks, and I had to get a letter of approval from the owner and for myself for the contractor to build the signing. And he's going through permitting, which I asked him to do. I think I first requested signage about maybe 6 weeks ago, 2 months. So I'm working on the signing inside and out.
Okay.
And as far as the event that took place, I was clearly in the middle of the road. No one's more concerned about the safety of my students than I am. And I believe this is the same woman who approached, and when I asked her, I said, please stop, I'm dismissing my students. She continued to drive her car towards me, and I ended up calling the police. So I'm sorry for my role in that incident, and if there's something else we can do, maybe, I'm sure signage would help, as you suggested. So I'm working on that. It's in the permitting process. If there's something else, you want me to wear an orange jacket, or I didn't want to put out cones. It literally, dismissal takes about 3 to 5 minutes, and I have witnesses of the event.
But you're supervising it, and you are...
It was me.
I
have I'm in the middle of the road.
Okay.
And I have another teacher up on the balcony who dismisses students to it at a time while the parents are waiting in the cars.
Is that on 1 Main Street?
No, what is that?
That means the street that goes through that has the circular...
I guess, is that Main Street?
Right, that is Main Street, so it is a street.
Okay.
So I think if, I had heard about this, I think to the extent that you are able to make sure that they are not in the middle of the street, because it is actually a street.
No, they're not in the middle of the street until I stand in the middle of the street and the car pulls up and I escort them to the car.
Okay,
No,
all right.
They're under the balcony.
Well, it sounds like you're working on it now, and
Yeah.
we have a permit application in
Yes,
at this
we do.
time? All right.
But
All right.
Kevin Ryan is the contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to the awning.
Yes, I have a couple questions. Thank you for coming, obviously. Without this awning, what will you not be able to do at the school?
I will not be able to allow my students that, as you may recall, there's a good percentage of my students that have reading challenges. And one of the best effective strategies for comprehension is to read aloud, which is really hard to do when you're in a classroom with 7 kids. So this would be a wonderful opportunity to take one child at a time with this adult supervision with my assistant and have them read aloud to themselves outside. And it's big enough, you could probably do like 3 students, spread them out with, under supervision.
And so
That's the most important.
they cannot do that now?
I'm sorry?
They cannot do that now?
We have 20 students in 1,500 square feet. It's challenging.
What I'm saying is-
I asked them to do that. What, read aloud, you mean?
They cannot go outside and read outside now?
Oh, it's so hot. The sun. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I tried when we first moved there. It's really, really hot.
Better it
And I
catches
think the
the sun
awning will be
almost all day.
transformative. It'll
Yeah, it's
just,
facing the west.
because the breeze is lovely, and the breezeway on the other side inside, if they could sit there, but that's not. That's shared by the other tenants. I would never do that. If they could, that'd be wonderful. So this would afford, and not just reading aloud, but lunches, the kids who want to read silently by themselves. It's just the downtime, non-instructive activities, that it would be a wonderful asset to their learning process.
And why a permanent fixture? Why not something like an umbrella of some sort that?
I don't think it'll create enough shade, and then it's cumbersome. I'd have to bring it in every day. Then there's risk of injury. It just seemed not conducive and worthwhile. It just seemed too cumbersome to have something permanent. But obviously it has to be removed for hurricanes. And I spoke to the contractor, and my husband, my handy husband over here, and I can take it down and they'll put it back up. They swore to me it's that easy.
Well, I know we've talked multiple times about your school, and I
Yeah.
absolutely support it. I am concerned about how it's going to look visually, and so I'm just really concerned on that, the way it's going to appear when it's all finalized. It's just not, I don't think it fits the design of the building, and I'm concerned that it's just going to stick out and be very evident to it's just going to be, boom, there it is. So I'm just really concerned at that.
Okay.
So the permanent idea, I'm not real comfortable with.
Okay.
It is going to P&Z, from what I
And
understand.
then it comes back to us after that, correct?
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. The aesthetics consideration of this awning will be further reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board next Thursday.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, let's see if they approve or not, the aesthetic. This hearing is only for the use.
Right.
Can this awning be installed for the use? So the aesthetic consideration, it will be further reviewed and approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
And it will come back to us.
No.
No.
In this case, it will be final at the Planning and Zoning Board.
Keith, can we change that because there is some concern by our Vice Mayor that it comes back to us before?
The process is that you either approve or deny the modification to the special exception. And then the Planning and Zoning Board would be the final decision maker on aesthetics. This is kind of the special exception's already been approved. This is a request to modify it, and clearly, what the awning looks like is an important part of what you're looking at tonight. Yes, the Planning and Zoning Board will do their job as well.
We don't have it.
But if you do not feel that the addition of the awning meets the special exception criteria, which, if you start on page 3 of the staff report, there are 6 criteria, and then 9 additional findings that have to be made, going through page 5 of the staff report. Those are the things that the council needs to find the applicant has met in order to grant the special exception. And if you feel that the evidence in the testimony tonight does not satisfy each of those, then when you're acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, then really it's appropriate to deny the application. If you find that they've met all the criteria,
We have to go forward with it.
then it's appropriate to approve it.
Right. And so the aesthetics at this time is not the issue for this particular earring. When I understand what you're saying, we've gone through this so many times where we really want to get into things that aren't what they're being asked. But it's important to us, obviously, and the Vice Mayor has said, and I'm sure others, that it is going to blend into what we have there and in the village. So that's how this is being discussed, just so you understand. But I think I saw all of the paperwork that came over, and it was well done, and I believe that, personally, I believe they've met the criteria.
Yeah, so and although you're not can't make the motion as the chair, if the maker of the motion feels that all the criteria have been met, then the motion should be to approve. If the maker of the motion feels that any of the criteria have not been met, then the motion should be to deny with an explanation of which criteria you feel the evidence has not supported tonight.
Now, I appreciate the Vice Mayor's concern. I do think, however, that awnings on Mediterranean-style buildings are not unusual. In fact, they're prevalent in many places. So I think, I believe that every effort will be made to make sure that this, if planning and zoning teams, they'll be the ones that have to judge it, but I believe that if it's done right, not only will it provide you with the use you're looking for, I actually think it'll enhance the look of that building, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any other comments on this?
I mean, if we're gonna talk aesthetics, I'm not crazy about that color, because it does kind of pop, but for me, that's a simple fix. Like, I don't think that would blend at all, but I'm looking at the structure right now, because as many of you know, I tend to go down that road for our additions.
Right, but I think planning and zoning is pretty strict when it comes to.
But as far as the
colors
structure,
and
it looks
things.
like the awning goes straight down, as if it's a roll down, but it's not a roll down, but it's not going out.
No.
Yeah.
That drawing down there at the bottom, I think, represents how it comes out to the edge of the porch there.
There's also, for the record, there's also an elevation in your package that shows kind of how it's going to be constructed.
Right.
So I'll just say that number 3 and 4, I think it does have an impact to local property values. And I do think it is not compatible with the adjoining development and the proposed character in that area. So those are the 2 that I would say I'm concerned about and don't think it meets those standards.
Okay. So unless there's any conversation, I would like to call for a motion to approve.
I will make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not opposed.
All right, we have one opposed, Lori. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15, resolution number 37-20. This is, I think, Jeremy, you're going to present this, please?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it has been well discussed. We've been working through some billing issues related to the new meter installation. With the billing adjustments, the staff has some authority by ordinance. The authority generally falls within the water leaks and taking the bill down to the lowest tier possible and not to exceed 2 times the average of the previous months, as long as they show they've repaired the leak. In this situation that we've been working through, that doesn't meet up the criteria necessarily. So this particular adjustment is to help assist with the water billing, the new meter replacement. Staff is committed to working with the customers through the new meter replacement. In some cases, the older meters weren't registering or not registering or registering very little. The new meters are more accurate in capturing true volume that is going through the meter. On numerous occasions since last July and in many forums, we have promoted the new meters. However, there have been many meters, there have been many bills that are significantly higher due to true volume being reported that some residents were not aware of or not prepared for. We'd like to offer those residents relief for billing issues outside of the leaks, such as irrigation or high usage. Staff has worked with many residents and has been able to show them the actual usage, and in many cases, residents have been surprised that they were even using that much water as reported. We believe offering some temporary relief is in the best interest of the village, provides additional transparency in the process. So the first one is an excessive variance step adjustment for the new meters. The utility director may approve an excessive use credit to the water bill for billing periods of July and August 2020, which due to the circumstances created by the advanced meter infrastructure installation project has caused unforeseen increased water usage due to higher meter accuracy, and which reflects consumption in the amount that is at least 2 times the customer's monthly usage over the previous 3-month actual period. The lowest step rate that results in the adjusted water bill with the customer's average water bill matching the month's billing shall be applied. So if it becomes that the bill, when taken down to the lowest tier, is over the previous month's average, then we can adjust it so that way it's not more than 2 times the average. And so this adjustment is really for maybe irrigation issues. People who are using irrigation didn't know that their bill was going to be this high once they got the new meters in, because it's reading true. So this offers relief as a one-time scenario, and hopefully they'll change their habits a little bit, or find some better watering habits with irrigation. And those that don't irrigate a lot, hopefully they understand the usage that they're coming by now with the actual reads. So that's the first one. The second adjustment is adjustment for the billing period from October 1st, 2019 through September 30th of 2020. Any individual water bills that billed for a period longer than 35 days, and that has result in captured water usage of quantity that caused the total usage of the water bill to be charged at a higher step rate, would be a change and lower down to the previous step rate for any period over 31 days. So staff believes that these adjustments are in assisting the new meter replacement, the billing issues that we've had. In addition to that, we had a planned rate adjustments for our 5-year period. We're going to delay those until a period of, we're looking at maybe January, so we can get through the billing issues, get our customers on track, with our billing, hopefully stand the portal up. And so the 5-year planned rate increase that we previously talked about, we're going to hold off on that. So those are the staff recommendations to help with our customers through this challenging water meter replacement time. It's a mouthful, but I know I've talked to you guys a little bit about it, individually. So, but if there's additional questions, I can answer that and hopefully maybe be a little clearer.
One sentence. Tell me about, again, the 2 times, the average of 3 months, how you're going to handle that.
Matt, do you want to assist? Where'd Matt go?
I could do it, but Matt left the building.
No, I actually got a seat. Yeah, so this, in working through this, is just a one-time or a short window to be able to provide some relief to customers that were maybe surprised by the higher accuracy of the water meters, and it affected their bills up. And so it's not going to affect everybody, but it does provide some relief for those that had leaks during that time, and they would be adjusted down similar to our normal quote-unquote leak credit that we provide.
I'd like to say that I think that whoever came up with the idea is a great idea to do that. But in addition to it, are y'all going to send out any kind of notification to everybody so that the people that don't complain about their water bill is also going to have an opportunity to get that special exception too? If you're out talking to your neighbor and they say, well, yeah, they cut my water bill in half last month. Well, I didn't know anything about that. So, I mean, what are we going to do about notifying, or have y'all talked about notifying everyone in the city to allow everyone to have a break on the potential increase?
So during this window, we have from our exception reports those customers that had usage that was significantly higher. That's what we've been working through, whether they called or not called, and in addition are working on calling, being proactive and following up, even if they haven't called in. So we're working off of that list. That'll be the same list that we work through of. We know what the average use is. We know what the usage was for the month of July and August. So we'll be working through that, whether they call in or not.
So you're saying that you're contacting them voluntarily when you see a significant increase in their water bill?
Yes, sir.
Well, what if it's not significant? So, my point being is that in all fairness to all the citizens, if you're just going through and you've got certain criteria that you're reaching out to some citizens because it's a significant increase over their previous bills during this time frame, I don't know, my initial thought was, well, everybody should have an opportunity to maybe get some sort of relief. And You know, just see, if you're going to be fair to some, I mean, why not be fair to everybody?
Well, if I can just give my, I guess,
Sure.
my 2 cents on it. So the people who have, I guess this is a very specific rate adjustment for those people who have very high bills that's more than 2 times their normal average. So we're getting into another category of very specific. And really what this is those people who had their meter, we've had people that their meter hadn't been read, or, you know, wasn't reading usage for 3 years or 2 years. And now all of a sudden they're getting a bill that's, you know, 3 times higher. We're going to make an exception to those people because they're kind of caught off guard a little bit. So we're only talking about a percentage of the percentage that we're making this adjustment for. A majority of the people, their meter that they had in the ground for the last 20 years, and when they got it replaced, there's no change.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, a significant amount of meters that weren't reading properly. And so those are the ones that we've been adjusting, and this rate adjustment will help those that were really significantly not reading. And I guess that's my cliff notes of the version of this rate adjustment, is that we're trying to target those people that had significant, more than 2 times their average, and trying to add relief to those.
That makes me understand a little bit better. Thank you.
So you're going to take them through the formula, and if the formula results in a bill that's more than 2 times, you're going to cap it at 2 times.
That's correct.
A couple of questions. How many customers, do you know how many customers at this point are impacted?
It's ballpark, 100 to 200 customers.
Okay.
We're shrinking down that
And
subset.
do we know what the dollar impact? I'd like to find out how many customers we have, what the dollar impact is. It's an interesting situation because they haven't been billed properly through no fault of their own, which means, like in the example you gave, Jeremy, they've basically been underbilled for 2 or 3 years. So they've actually had the benefit of paying dramatically less than for the cost of water than the water they were actually incurring. So they've actually already received a tremendous benefit. But I understand the rate shock issue because, again, it wasn't their fault that the meter wasn't working properly. But it's not as though they haven't already had a significant financial benefit from that occurrence. Again, no fault of their own. So I'm not saying I disagree with the idea behind this, but you know, the billing adjustment period, I have no problem with that at all. I mean, that makes perfect sense. This one, again, if I played devil's advocate, I could argue it the other way and say, hey, these people have already reaped substantial benefits. Why are we giving them an additional financial benefit? But again, the rate shock issue, I understand. But I would like to know how many and what the financial impact is, that we have that quantified.
Yeah, what I can say is that from the credits that we've processed so far, which if anyone went even 1,000 gallons over, 1 unit over into another tier, the financial impact of that, I looked at our year-over-year revenue from this 4-month window to last year's 4-month window. Having processed through these, our current year, even having processed through all those, we're $77,700 up over last year. So our impact is we're balancing what's right, doing what's right for the customers,
yeah.
And while at the same time being fiscally responsible. And we believe that we are doing that. And this smaller subset, that 77,000 up year over, is probably going to come down into the 60s somewhere. We're still going to be up, but we're again trying to be
But as
balanced
you
and
process
sensitive
through
to.
this, as you go through the process, you're going to identify the customers. You're going to know the exact amounts. I'd just like you to share that with us when you get it. Again, you're right. In terms of the total revenue coming in, it's going to probably be de minimis. I get that. But I'd still like to have the information just to see how it plays out.
Sure.
It will actually give us some insight, too, as to what the financial impact of the bad meters were during that period of time, which, again, supports, again, the council's decision originally to go this direction in the first place.
All right. Anything else?
I mean, we know how much water we produce. We know how much water we charge, right? And so there's always been a leakage throughout the village, and I'm hopefully that there's going to be, that number is going to get smaller. Would that
Correct. Well, I prefer to call it unaccounted water.
Unaccounted.
Some of it's actual leakage, and some of it's just metering accuracies, which is what we saw here.
Well, and to the Vice Mayor's point, you actually raise a great point that I hadn't really thought of, which is if the meters are accurate, and we now have an accurate reading of how much our customers are consuming, and we know how much we're outputting, that gives you an indication of, within the system itself, to what extent do we have an issue, within the distribution system that we need to address. It may be much less than we thought. It may be more critical than we thought. We've talked about the need to address water distribution, so that will be interesting data to come out of all this.
Gives us a much clearer view of real versus apparent losses.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So the other question I have, currently, how many of our residential meters are online?
We are just up to 90%, almost just under 90%. We're almost there. 4,700 is where we're at right now.
But you said residential.
Oh, residential.
Just residential, not the commercial side?
We're in the high 90s on that.
Okay.
There's only a handful left.
Are we on target to turn on the online system for the residents to be able to start getting online and looking at their?
We're still shooting for November on that, correct?
Okay.
And does that entail getting the tower, a tower to be able to do that? No?
It's already running?
Yeah.
So there's 2 towers and base stations that were up. Those are
Okay.
up, running, functional.
All right.
There's almost 90% of our meters are reporting. Nearly 100% of our small residential meters are reporting into those towers. And so what it is, it's on the back end of making sure that the information coming from our billing system lines up with the information coming in from the meters. When those all line up well, then that's when we can start rolling out that customer portal.
I see. Thank you. Anything else? All right, may I have a motion to approve resolution? Lori, I'm sorry, you had said that there was somebody that had given us a card. Is there anyone else waiting?
No one else, just the one that I read.
Oh, okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 37-20?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 16, approve award of request for proposals for financial advisory services, and I believe Mr. Dunkley will present this to us.
And before we get started, I need to recuse myself on this one for potential financial gain.
Oh, right, okay, thank you.
And Vice Mayor, the clerk will have the appropriate documentation for you to fill out, which will be appended to this meeting's minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Hopefully I'm not too muzzled with this mask on, but the item before you is, it represents your staff's request of you engage the top-ranked proposer, which was Hilltop Securities, to allow that firm to assist us with our near and long-term financing needs. Basically, the firm will be assisting us with not only obtaining credit, but they'll be assisting us with structuring the credit, sizing the debt, reaching out to potential bidders whenever we are about to issue RFPs. And they serve a kind of a very distinct and intrinsic value in that they kind of have a good barometer of what's going on in the credit markets, and that enables staff to know exactly when to issue, how to issue the debt, how to structure the RFPs. And lastly, if there are other opportunities such as refinancing opportunities, they kind of alert us to those opportunities. We do have a principal from Hilltop Securities, Mr. Matthew Sandberg. He's here this evening if you have any questions for him. He's willing and able to answer those questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dunkley. Do we have any questions concerning this item?
No.
Nothing here?
Yes.
All right. Vice Mayor? Yes? You can be involved.
This guy.
Yeah, thank you.
When we first talked about procuring services for arranging for the financing, which was to include the community center and then some additional items that have been discussed. I guess I was under the impression that we would engage somebody for that purpose and that purpose alone. I noticed that the contract involves a retainer and it goes on for a number of years beyond that initial engagement. So I just want to get more of the thinking behind why we would engage in a 3-year contract, why we would keep these people on retainer. If the intent, with respect to what we've discussed in the past, was to be able to go out and do this in one offering. So if there's some thoughts as to maybe that's not the way it's going to be structured, I'd like to get a sense of where we're, what the current thinking is on this.
Yeah, there are merits to engaging them on an ad hoc basis, but the benefit of retaining them on a long-term basis is that there is an opportunity for us to consistently, for staff to consistently engage them if there are opportunities in the market such as refinancing and things of that sort. And we do plan to entertain the idea of issuing additional debt in the very near future, debt related to the Utilities Enterprise Fund. So it's good to have them at hand so that they can help us to evaluate the prospect of whether we should issue debt, how we should issue the debt. So essentially, the retainer, which is $6,000, we feel that that is more than reasonable for the value that we're getting.
Okay, well, you just hit on one of the items I was going to ask. So, because we've talked about the water distribution system and the need to address that going forward. So, in your thinking, it isn't just about the initial deal, whatever form or structure that takes for the community center and some of the other things we've identified, but you're also looking at a little longer term, and you're saying that, in essence, the benefit of having that relationship, having them on board, them understanding our needs, knowing we'll come back for the utility side, merits a longer-term agreement. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
And some firm, and Mr. Sandberg perhaps can chime in, but some firms tend to, it's not as appetizing if it's a one-shot occurrence. They like a more longer-term relationship, and we in turn will get a kind of a better value because we can pick up the phone if we have question. If you have a project and infrastructure improvement that you're thinking of, we have, I think in the most recent scenario, we're able to come up with various debt annual repayment models to present to you. That was kind of, free services from
I understand.
a firm that I'm engaged with. But the thing is that they're readily available whenever we need them, and so there is an intrinsic value for having them there.
I would like to ask my fellow council members if you would concur. As we begin to look at specific deals, et cetera, I would like to be able to represent the council in terms of being an observer and looking at the deal structures and what's being done, what's being considered, so that I have an understanding of exactly what certain situations are and what's being looked at and why. As you know, I have a background in this, so I'm not going to benefit in any way personally, but I would just like to be proactive and participating in this process.
No, I understand what you're saying, but being proactive would basically assume that you are being proactive on behalf of the entire council. And I don't think that we can do that. I'm unlike our environmental committee. This is I think what you're talking about more is actually being part of the driving of this.
No, more just to have the opportunity to hear what's being offered and be able to offer suggestions or thoughts or things for consideration. Obviously, whatever comes out of this is going to come back to the council as a whole.
But again, you're kind of in the, you're driving some of what they're looking at. And I'm only concerned, you know, that you, essentially, if you have that much part of this, you are representing us, but we're not there. So I'm a little concerned about that. I'd rather, if we were going through this, workshop things as we go with the entire council there, you, of course, knowing so much more than many of us, anyway, that can talk to this, just being, that we would all be a part of it, I think, as compared to having one person that drives something. Yeah,
So
we've never done that in the past. We're careful about that. Keith?
I don't believe the RFP contemplated a council liaison for this relationship, so I'd be concerned about that.
But there's no problem in my being an observer then, to any of the meetings or conversations or discussions that take place.
I'm not sure what kind of meetings there would be to observe.
You mean in terms of the process, council member?
Well, the process and when a deal is being contemplated or looked at.
So just
If
the
I
way,
may, so after we engage Hilltop with your approval, what typically happens is that we have our eyes and ears open, and we're going to be working with the construction manager at risk, with Mr. Allen, and then when we come up with an amount that is required to fund the project, the municipal advisor and myself will take the amount and his firm will analyze the various structures. If it's 7 million or 5 million that's required over 15 years or 20 years. And he, in turn, he has infinite knowledge of the market. How many banks have appetite for 15-year loan, for 7 million, for 20? So with his infinite knowledge, he'll say, Hugh, I think you'll get the most proposers if you put out the RFP for a 15-year debt or a 20-year debt for this amount. Then we will come to you, perhaps in a workshop setting, and we'll say, we're contemplating putting on an RFP for 7 million over 20 years, and this will be the annual debt service payment. This is going to be the impact on the budget. Then at that point in a workshop setting, you'll say, well, we weren't considering so much, and then I'll go back to the municipal advisor and say, well, can you structure the debt a little bit differently? So it's going to be opportunities for back and forth between staff and the council. Yeah, we'll be able to.
Let's do it in a workshop
engage-
setting, all right? I'd prefer if we do it that way. All
Yeah,
right.
we'll definitely keep you.
Yeah, just so the entire council is a party to this. I think that's what we should do. Any other questions for Mr. Dunkley?
I don't have any, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With one abstaining at this time, with the mic. All right, thank you. Item 17, the last item. Award proposal for construction services manager at risk to Hedrick Brothers Construction. And
thank you,
I-
Mayor. This is the one that I briefly touched on, didn't want to touch too much on it because you did have an agenda item for him, but this item is to award a construction manager at risk services to Hendrick Brother Construction. The award for construction service manager has many advantages that include hiring to deliver the building for a guaranteed maximum price. The principal advantages are the initial focus on design issues, construction advice during the design process, careful oversight of cost and schedule, early commitments, and opportunities to shorten the overall project schedule. This service is broken into a pre-construction and a construction phase. The first of which, pre-construction services, which the contract will work with the architect to deliver 2 guaranteed maximum price cost estimates. The first cost estimate being roughly the 75% mark. The second one being before the drawing, when the drawings are complete and before they're permitted. So then that contract will take and try to meet that guaranteed price maximum. We did have 12 original proposals ranked based on firm's capability, qualifications, experience of the firm and team, the revenue bonding and insurance capabilities, the strength of proposals, and the references. Of the 12 original, 3 were selected to present to the selection committee. While all Hendrick Brothers Construction, Verdex Construction, and Cast Construction were all capable firms, the committee unanimously recommended Hendrick Brothers to the council for approval. Village staff respectfully ask for the approval of the award to Hendrick Brothers. From here, just to let you guys know the process, from here we'll work on negotiating fee for service. Once that agreement is in place, the team will work with ours during this design process. They'll work with Parks and Rec to work between those to come up with a good product, so.
Jeremy, I just want you to go over what you and I spoke about the IG being at the table this entire time, just so everyone is aware this is how we have to do it now.
Yeah, so there is mandates that require us to report to the IG. We met all those requirements. There was some questions back and forth from the IG. Staff answered those questions. We hadn't heard back from 2 to 3 weeks. We've met all their requirements, and we feel comfortable with the process that we worked with them. So.
Okay, just want to make sure we have that in place. Any comments?
Yeah, ma'am.
No?
Wow.
I'll make a comment. I know the company Hedrick Brothers. I know that they've got a handful of residents. I think one might be here, Ryan. And so it's nice to have someone from the company here to represent the company, and it shows their eagerness to do a great job. I think, again, the fact that they have some of the employees who are going to be managing the job itself that actually live here in the village of Tequesta, they're going to be utilizing the building itself. So
Excellent.
could not be happier.
So if there's problems, you know where he lives.
We do know.
I was going to say, don't mess it up.
It's like
Yeah.
Christine from our architect. You know,
Same
we
concept.
have people
It's
staying real close to us because that's what we're doing.
quite the local team, which
It's nice.
I think I love
really,
it.
You know, they
Yep.
know what we want
Agreed.
in here. If there isn't anything else, I'd like a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor, if I can just add just a
Yes.
little bit to that, I didn't want to do it, but the Hendricks Brothers are very excited to be working with the village from start to finish, from what I understand. I mean, even when they were awarded or ranked #1, I think their whole team celebrated and was very excited. So, you know, we're excited that they're excited, if that helps.
I just had one comment I wanted to ask. With their coming on board with RNG, we've talked about trying to compress the schedule, or at least I have multiple times. I'd like to see us get an updated Gantt chart as soon as we possibly could to lay out the time frame for all the various steps moving forward, and hopefully it meets, you know, that accelerated schedule that we've talked about in the past.
When we get them on board, we'll work toward that.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have already passed that, so let's go on to any other matters.
I don't have any.
Anything down here?
Not for me.
All right, excellent. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Lori, can the